Park Min-young has spent years looking like the kind of woman the screen was designed to protect. She has the face of romantic perfection, the composure of someone who never seems rushed, and the polished elegance that makes audiences trust her almost instantly. Even now, that image still has power. After reclaiming mainstream attention through Marry My Husband in early 2024, she moved into a sharper, more calculating space with Confidence Queen, the 2025 crime comedy series led by her on Prime Video. No matter the genre, the aura remains the same: controlled, beautiful, untouchable. She does not just look famous, she looks like someone who was never supposed to crack. That is exactly why the doubt hits so hard. In January 2024, Park Min-young's agency released a statement addressing new reports involving her ex-boyfriend, while Park herself reassured fans and said she was deeply regretting the fact that many people had been worried and disappointed. On paper, it was not a confirmed crime attached to her name. But for someone whose image had been built on precision, grace, and trust, suspicion alone was enough to stain the surface. Women like Park Min-young are not sold to the public as dangerous. They are sold as safe. And once the public begins looking at that kind of perfection through doubt, even a flawless face can start to feel fragile. That is where this story begins. Not with a collapse, but with a fracture. Because Park Min-young was never just a star, she was a fantasy of control. And sometimes, the people who look most perfect are the ones the public is most eager to watch the moment the surface finally shakes. Before Park Min-young became the woman audiences so easily associated with grace, elegance, and impossible polish, her path into the industry was much less glamorous than the image people now remember. She was born in Seoul on March 4, 1986, later became known to some fans as Rachel Park, studied abroad in the United States during high school, and eventually graduated from Dongguk University with a degree in theater. Those facts matter less as trivia than as texture. Park Min-young did not appear in Korean entertainment as a fully formed goddess of romance. She was built slowly, through education, discipline, and years of learning how to carry herself in an industry that is especially unforgiving toward women whose faces and bodies are constantly being watched, judged, and idealized. Even before fame, there was already the pressure of presentation, the unspoken demand not only to perform well, but to look composed while doing it. Her entrance into entertainment was gradual. She first appeared in an SK Telecom commercial in 2005, then began acting in 2006 with the hit sitcom High Kick, Unstoppable High Kick. After that came supporting and mid-level roles that helped her stay visible without yet making her feel untouchable. I Am Sam in 2007, an episode of Hometown of Legends in 2008, Jam-young-go in 2009, and Running Goo in 2010. She was also seen by a much wider youth audience in Big Bang's Haru Haru music video, which added another layer to her growing recognition. But this is the important part. None of these appearances made Park Min-young feel inevitable yet. They made her familiar. And familiarity is often the first stage of a star who is still being assembled in public. At this point in her life, she was not the queen of romantic dramas, not the woman viewers projected perfection onto, not the screen fantasy she would later become. She was still in construction, attractive, promising, camera-friendly, but not yet mythic. The real emotional shift came when the industry finally started seeing how useful her image could become. What made Park Min-young's early years so important was not some huge breakout explosion, but the way they quietly prepared the surface she would later spend years protecting. She was learning how to be looked at, learning how to seem poised, learning how to make effort disappear. That kind of labor is easy to miss because, when it succeeds, it looks natural. By the time Sungkyunkwan Scandal arrived in 2010 and pushed her into a completely different level of recognition, the foundation had already been laid. Park Min-young had spent years building the kind of face the public could trust without hesitation. And that is what makes the next chapters of her story heavier than they first seem. She was not only building a career, she was building a perfect surface, one that would later become both her greatest power and her most fragile burden. Park Min-young's rise was not built on one lucky role. It was built through a series of performances that slowly trained the public to see her as something more polished, more reliable, and more emotionally ideal than ordinary stardom usually allows. Sungkyunkwan Scandal in 2010 was the first major shift. It pushed her into a new level of visibility and gave audiences a version of Park Min-young they could not easily forget: poised, intelligent, beautiful, and effortlessly watchable. From there, the momentum tightened quickly. City Hunter in 2011 kept her in the public eye, and the years that followed made it clear she was not just a breakout actress enjoying a temporary wave. She was becoming the kind of performer whose face could carry both romance and composure at once. That matters because Park Min-young's appeal was never simply about beauty. It was about the illusion of emotional order. When she appeared on screen, the chaos around her often seemed to settle into something cleaner, calmer, and more desirable. That is one of the reasons audiences began attaching to her so strongly. She did not just look famous, she looked like the polished version of life itself. But the image became much more powerful once her career entered the middle phase. Healer was one of the roles that deepened her identity beyond elegance, because it allowed Park Min-young to feel warm, wounded, capable, and romantic all at once. Then Remember and Later, Queen for 7 Days showed that she could carry pain and period tragedy without losing the grace that had already become central to her public image. By this point, she was no longer simply an actress with successful dramas. She was becoming a type. And in Korean television, becoming a type can be both a gift and a trap. Park Min-young was increasingly associated with women who felt composed under pressure, emotionally intelligent, stylish without trying too hard, and almost impossibly easy to love. Then came What's Wrong with Secretary Kim in 2018, and that image reached another level entirely. Soompi noted that the drama had a popular run and that Park Min-young later called Kim Miso her all-time favorite character. Around the same period, Soompi also reported that the role helped place her at the top of the female actor buzz rankings, while international K-drama fan rankings placed her at #1 among female actors as the series aired. This is the point where Park Min-young stopped feeling like a respected actress with a strong resume and started feeling like the very face of romantic perfection in Korean drama. And once that happened, the idealization only intensified. Her private life followed in 2019 and strengthened the same fantasy from a different angle. Park Min-young as the modern woman who is polished, emotionally appealing, secretly passionate, and somehow still perfectly in control of herself. That streak of roles is what made her image so powerful and, eventually, so fragile. Audiences were no longer just watching Park Min-young perform characters. They were projecting onto her an entire emotional ecosystem: beauty without vulgarity, competence without cruelty, romance without chaos, glamour without visible damage. She became the kind of actress people trusted instinctively, the kind of screen presence that made perfection look natural instead of exhausting. But that is exactly where the hidden pressure began. The more the public loved her for seeming immaculate, the less room she had to ever look uncertain, compromised, or human outside the frame. Park Min-young had become more than a star. She had become a fantasy of order. And when a woman becomes loved that way, the world rarely forgives her for breaking the illusion, even slightly. The pressure in Park Min-young's story did not come from one explosive scandal that instantly destroyed everything. It came from something more poisonous for a woman whose entire public image had been built on polish, elegance, and trust: prolonged suspicion. In September 2022, while she was still filming Love in Contract, reports revealed that she was dating businessman Kang Jong-hyun, and those reports also pulled in allegations surrounding him and the companies connected to his name. A day later, her agency said that she had already broken up with him, denied that she had received significant monetary benefits, and added that her older sister had submitted her resignation from an outside director position at a company linked to him. On paper, none of that proved Park Min-young herself had committed wrongdoing. But image does not break only through proof. Sometimes it breaks through association. And for Park Min-young, that was enough to change the emotional temperature of how the public looked at her. She had spent years being loved as the woman who made perfection feel effortless. Now the perfection no longer felt clean. It felt watched, questioned, and slightly contaminated by someone else's shadow. That shadow grew heavier in 2023 and 2024. In February 2023, her agency said she had been summoned by prosecutors as a witness in the investigation involving her ex-boyfriend and stressed that she was participating only as a witness, not as a suspect. Then, in January 2024, a new report claimed that 250 million won had been transferred to her while they were dating. Her agency responded that prosecutors had already established she had not engaged in illegal activities and had not received illegal benefits, arguing that the money in question involved her account being used by Kang and not her personal living expenses. Park Min-young herself then posted, "Sick of it all," adding that she believed honesty would prevail and telling fans not to worry. These details matter because they reveal the exact shape of her burden. Park Min-young was not fighting a clear public fall with one neat ending. She was trapped in the much murkier space where doubt lingers longer than facts, and where a woman does not need to be convicted of anything for her image to start bleeding. For an actress whose power depended so much on seeming composed, tasteful, and emotionally safe, that kind of suspicion was especially brutal. It did not just attack her name. It attacked the entire fantasy that had made people trust her so instinctively in the first place. That is why this chapter of her story feels heavier than gossip. It was not only a public controversy, it was a crisis of surface. In a February 2024 interview with the Korea Times, Park Min-young described "Marry My Husband" as something like medicine for her during a dark period, saying she wanted to step forward again as both a good actor and a good person, and that the project helped reset her mindset. That is the emotional center of this part. Because Park Min-young did not simply endure rumors and wait for them to pass. She had to keep living inside a face the public had once loved for looking immaculate, while knowing that immaculate women are often judged most harshly the moment doubt reaches them. The tragedy of her image was that it had become too perfect to protect her. In the end, the burden was not just that people questioned Park Min-young. It was that they began questioning the very thing she had spent years constructing. The beautiful, controlled surface that had always seemed impossible to stain. And once a woman like that is seen through suspicion, even survival starts to look like a performance she has to earn all over again. What makes Park Min-young's recent chapter so compelling is that it does not feel like a simple return to the old image. It feels like a return with memory still attached to it. Marry My Husband in 2024 was not just another successful drama in her filmography. It arrived at exactly the moment when her public image needed something stronger than silence. The role itself made that comeback even more powerful. She played a woman betrayed, humiliated, and forced to relive her life with the chance to take it back. That story resonated for obvious reasons. Whether people admitted it or not, the drama allowed audiences to watch Park Min-young move through betrayal, rage, control, and reinvention at a moment when many were still projecting those same ideas onto her real life. It was not a clean erasure of controversy. It was something more useful than that. It gave her a way to stand in front of the public again without pretending nothing had happened. And because the performance landed, the comeback did not feel desperate. It felt deliberate. Park Min-young was no longer just trying to look perfect again. She was beginning to look sharper than perfection, more aware, more guarded, and maybe more dangerous because of it. That is why her next step matters. With Confidence Queen lined up for 2025, Park Min-young's trajectory suggests that she is no longer interested in surviving only as the woman people once trusted for effortless romance and immaculate calm. She seems more interested now in roles that let intelligence harden into strategy. That shift is important because it changes the meaning of her image. For years, the appeal of Park Min-young was that she felt like order. She could walk into a story full of chaos and instantly make it prettier, smoother, easier to believe in. But after doubt enters a star's life, that old kind of beauty is never quite enough on its own. The audience starts looking for something else, not innocence, but control after damage. Not softness, but precision. And that is exactly where Park Min-young has become more interesting. She still has the face, the elegance, the polished composure that made her a romantic ideal in the first place. But now there is another layer next to it. The sense that she has seen what public doubt can do, and that she has learned how to move through it without explaining herself to death. So maybe that is the real payoff of Park Min-young's story. Not that she proved she was flawless all along, and not that she escaped suspicion untouched. It is that she survived the moment when the world stopped looking at her with automatic trust, and then found a way to come back without begging to be seen as innocent again. That changes the power of her image. The old Park Min-young was easy to idealize because she looked like perfection. The Park Min-young who remains now is more compelling because she looks like someone who understands how fragile perfection always was. And maybe that is why her story feels stronger in the present than it did at the height of her rom-com fantasy years. She is no longer just the woman who made love stories look beautiful. She is the woman who walked through doubt, carried the stain of public suspicion, and returned with a colder, steadier kind of glow. Not untouched, not unchanged, but sharper. And for someone whose greatest burden was always the pressure to remain immaculate, that may be the most powerful ending possible.